Okay, so when you're dealing with computer programming languages, normally we talk about data types. Okay, so this type that I have highlighted up here on the screen is called a string. The way that you tell Python, I'm about to start a string, is with either a single quote or a double quote. And as far as Python is concerned, it doesn't really matter which one you use. You just have to use the same one at the beginning and end of a string. Okay, so here, I will prove that to you by now using single quotes instead of double quotes. I'm going to save the file that we've got, and now I'm going to run it. Okay, and you see that as far as Python is concerned, it's just doing the same thing. It's printing out that string that I gave it. You can tell that it's not executing the same statement twice because I sort of accidentally left off the exclamation mark on the second one. So you can see that it prints the first string and then it prints the second string. Now I'd like to draw your attention to one thing, and that is that when it printed, it did not print the quotation marks on either side of the string. That's because in the first command, we are telling Python, the string that I want you to print is the stuff that's inside the quotation marks. And so that's the string that it prints. It doesn't tell us specifically, this is the string that I'm printing out for you, which is what it would have done if it had printed quotes. So it only prints the string itself. When you tell it print quote mark, hello world, exclamation mark, quote mark, the quote marks are not part of the string. They are the thing that tells Python what's in between our string. That was totally ungrammatical, but I hope you understood what I meant. Okay, so a natural thing that you might want to wonder is, well, what if I need those quotation marks? And the answer is very simple. You use one set to be the general string delimiter, and you use the other string indicator inside the quotes. And when you do that, Python knows that the inside stuff is actually part of the string. So let's run this. Okay. I'm going to scooch this guy over just a little bit so we can see the whole command. That's right. Okay, so up here, we used single quote at the beginning and end of the string. And that tells Python all of the things in between these two are part of the string. So it knows this is string mode. Now we put the double quote in there and the double quote there. And since we already told Python this is the inside of the string, it treats those as part of the string. So now when I tell it, please print the string that is inside of these single quotes, it doesn't worry about whether there's double quotes or not. They're just counted as part of the string, and it prints those. Okay. And luckily, you can do the exact opposite. So if you need it to actually display single quotes, then you can do like this. This is very useful for when you're dealing with text that has apostrophes, for example. You can use the double quote as your sort of like baseline quote character, and it saves you a lot of hassle of dealing with apostrophes, because the apostrophe character is the same as the single quote character. Let's say that for some reason you needed to use the double quote character, but you still needed to have a double quote inside your string. You can do that by using something called an escape character. Okay, and the way that works is you use the backslash double quote character. Okay, so backslash has a very special meaning in Python strings. Normally it means there's some other special character that's about to come up, and so you don't treat the backslash and the other character as regular old characters. you treat the backslash and that other character together as a special character. Okay, so backslash quote means I am not a quote that begins or ends a string. I am a quote that is a part of a string. Okay, and we will put the backslash quote in here as well. So what we should see is a string that has a quote mark, hello world, and then an end quote mark. We do. Okay, so this is the same thing that we would have gotten if we had just used single quotes outside. Okay? So there's multiple ways to get quotes into our string. I personally think it's simpler to use the single quote as your string delimiter and then use the double quote as your regular characters. But if for some reason you need to do you need to have the same characters inside your string as your string delimiters, use this backslash trick. Okay. Now, backslash is not limited to individual characters, to the individual character of a quote. There's backslashes for a lot of other stuff. Let me give you one of the absolute most useful ones. It's backslash T. Oh, oops. Backslash T stands for tab. So what this did was it printed the string hello, then it did a tab, and then it did world. So tab has a special meaning in text processing, and that is normally you go to the next tab stop and you start the string or you continue the string. Tab stops are normally by convention defined to be every 8 characters in a fixed font width. So we see it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, space, 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 and then world starting after that. Okay, so those are not spaces in the internal representation of Python. They're only spaces in the external representation of the screen. Right? It's really treated as a tab character as part of the string. Okay, and the reason that this is so useful is because it is incredibly convenient to store data as a tab-separated spreadsheet file. Virtually every kind of data that I've ever worked with that was processed by me, I store it as a tab-separated data file. I mean, there have been very rare occasions where it has been something else. They were dictated by the needs of the program or whatever. But ordinarily, you just store stuff as each observation is on a line. The columns of the observation are separated by tabs. It's a very standard format. It's super, super, super easy to work with. It's easy to put stuff into that format. It's easy to read that format into R, if that's your favorite statistical data analysis package. So it's just great. So just for kicks, let's make up a fake data line to sort of illustrate this point. In fact, I'll do 2. Okay, so what I did is I just told it to print out a line that says subject, F1, F2. This would be like the header for a file that was recording vowel format measurements, for example. And then it printed out one observation, which is Robert, 700, 1200. So that could be a vowel that I produced.